¿Qué pasa, muchachos? Oh, I don't know, something. It's the 19th of May, and we are, of course, gonna continue Deadly Summer Premonition. Let's get into it, because I can't remember what we did last time, what we talked about, and yada yada. So let's just... Oh yes, by the way, Richard Dunn, who we met at the town hall meeting, he's actually George. Or rather, he's not George. His model, his player character model, was George in the original game, the cancelled game Rainy Woods, which Deadly Premonition is sort of like the recycled version of Rainy Woods, because apparently, after it got shown at the Tokyo Game Show, the producers of Twin Peaks, they had some concerns. And so they changed George, and they changed York, and they also changed York's name, because it used to be David Young Henning, which I guess was kind of like how David Lynch names characters. Maybe I'm not that familiar with David Lynch. Like, I've seen Twin Peaks and all that, and I love it, and it's great. And I guess it's kind of like a David Bowie reference, I'm guessing. So yeah, they changed his name and they changed his face, and we will actually see his face also a little later. But they also changed George. His old model is now Richard Dunn, and they just they put like a silly little feather in his head, because apparently he looks a little bit like Harry S. Truman from Twin Peaks, which he totally didn't, unless like Harry Truman from Twin Peaks took steroids, because he was still buff. They still use like kind of like the same body model, George and Richard Dunn. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, I guess. Yeah, that's like the only thing I can quite remember. We're gonna go, I think this chapter's gonna be short, it's just gonna be the diner scene, I believe. So let's get into it, baby!
Well then, Agent York, do you have any plans for this evening?
I was going to head back to the hotel and go over my notes. I need to contact HQ and give a progress report too.
Okay, then let's call it a day here.
And that was, as I said, a pretty short chapter. We're about 8 chapters in, and there's, I think, about like at least 20 hours of gameplay yet. So the next many chapters are actually gonna be fairly long from what I remember.
Hold on, Agent York. We're going out to eat at Nick's Diner. Would you like to come with us?
The diner? That might be nice.
It was for once as I predicted. We went to the diner to have a dinner scene, and it's pretty great. We get to know a bit more about Emily and about George and about Thomas also a little bit.
I've been sheriff here for a long time now.
This is the worst murder I've ever seen. Our town is a little odd in some ways, but it's usually a peaceful place.
Emily is very insecure about Agent York being this extreme man of action, like this guy who just jumped out of a sort of like thriller detective movie. And understandably so, as York goes over some of his more spicy cases that he has worked in the past.
The case I was on until last month, well, the guy killed 7 girls in a 3-month period. He sawed their heads off from the neck and took them back to his house.
And one of them is a clear reference to Jeffrey Dahmer, as he is describing a murderer who used the skulls of his victims both as a bathroom but also as a bowl to eat out of and drink out of. And he would like mix cola and their blood, and then he would drink it in a gulpy little disgusting drink. And he also casually mentions that he worked a case where I believe he used the phrasing, an ingenious law student raped 800 students, which is...
An ingenious law school student raped over 800 victims. That was a nasty one.
Thank you, Agent York. Now, let's talk about something else.
And during the scene I also had...
And this is the worst murder I've ever seen.
Just the regular stuff.
A high school kid shoplifting from the milk barn, maybe? Or some hot-headed kids fighting?
I had a moment.
He cleaned the skulls up and used them as utensils.
And that's what this game does.
Those he had used to remove himself. And then just
You experience the full register of emotions. There's both extreme highs, like this bit where I laughed at George eating a burger, which is
And this is the worst murder I've ever seen.
it's so great. And we're also gonna see some extreme lows, and I will probably react in an appropriate way to what's gonna happen. I mean, I've done that a couple of times. I remember the first time I played this game, and I got to the ending, and I actually fucking cried. And then I played it the second time, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna cry this time, and I actually fucking did. And now we're on my 6th playthrough, I believe, and I'm definitely gonna cry again because I'm getting teary-eyed just fucking talking about the whole ending thing. That's weird. Nothing really does that to me like this thing does. And a bit of a funny coincidence, I randomly remembered as I was walking up here to the office that Richard Dunn used to be George, or rather his model used to be used for George's predecessor. And in the diner scene in the back, we can actually see Nick, Richard's son. That's a bit of an audio cue to what's gonna happen in the next chapter. And then we have the dinner, and there is some crying because
I keep on expecting to see Anna. Here in this diner, waiting on tables.
Excuse us, Agent Morgan. We should have made dinner a more uplifting experience.
Emily and Thomas sort of like, they reach that point where it seeps in, right? The whole like a very close acquaintance of theirs died, and horribly so. So they break down and they have a little cry session, understandably so. And then after that sort of like damp dinner, York goes back to his hotel and he goes over the case notes. Also, to, both get a refresher for him, but also us. And I like that the game actually does that a couple of times, where it sort of like gives you a little test on, so you can make sure that you can remember the different important things in the investigation in case you missed it, because you might actually miss something if you play for like 3 hours. You're not gonna remember everything, so it's nice that it does that.
Oh, and on Emily's back, it was strange to me. Hey, don't take that the wrong way, Zach. I wasn't getting all excited or anything. But it did make me feel strange. Nostalgic and sad almost.
And in sort of like a post-credit scene to this episode. This is episode 1 we've just done, which consists of 8 chapters. And in the post-credit scene, we see a beat-up truck arrive, and then a lady who's wearing stiletto heels, she steps out. And that's probably Diane, So, if I remember correctly, we are gonna go see Diane next chapter. I think. I don't know, but I guess I will tomorrow.